My family is constantly comparing me to my successful cousin, and I've reached my breaking point. I'm a 30-year-old freelance graphic designer, and this year's Thanksgiving was a total mess. My family gets together every year and my cousin Kevin's name always comes up. The way they talk about him makes you think he walks on water. Kevin works as a corporate lawyer and is the family's golden boy. He's tall, always well-dressed, drives a fancy car and embodies almost every success stereotype that my family holds dear. Meanwhile, I'm just the person doing the art projects. This year, it began before Kevin arrived. We were sitting at the dinner table, and my mother made the first statement as soon as the food hit the plates. She did not waste any time. "Kevin really has his life together, doesn't he?" she asked, staring at me as if I should nod and agree. I just kept my head down and focused on the mashed potatoes. My freelance business has been doing well lately, yet none of them cares. All they see is that I don't make six figures in some high-powered profession, and that's all that matters to them. The night carried on, and the subject kept returning to Kevin. My aunts and uncles would not quit talking about him. "Have you heard? Kevin's firm is preparing him for partnership. Alternatively, oh, and he just returned from a Maldives trip." It's as if they are enamored with him. I've learned to keep silent over the years. There's no point in trying to steer the topic when everything points to my cousin. But this year seemed different. I'm not sure why, but something inside me couldn't take it anymore. As if on cue, Kevin made his spectacular appearance. He arrived late, of course, and the instant he went through the door, all eyes were on him. He walked in, flashing the keys to his new sports car like he was the star of a reality show. Everyone came up to greet him. I remained sitting, observing on the sidelines as they virtually fawned over him. Nobody cared to ask me about my life or my job. I'd just secured a very great freelance gig with a popular independent brand, yet it was as if I didn't exist. Then came the kicker. During supper, my mother leaned over and remarked, "Maybe if you had stuck to a more stable career, you could afford a place like Kevin's." I could feel my hands tightening into fists beneath the table. I didn't say anything, but my insides were boiling. It wasn't just one comment, it was years of hearing the same story. I understand what they think. Kevin is the success story, and I'm the guy who could have done more. But here's the thing. Kevin's life is not flawless. He's unhappy at his high-stress work, and I know he's been in more failed relationships than I can count. He's told me before about how lonely he is, but none of this matters to the family. They just see the surface and they believe he has it all. Knowing this does not assist, however. Even while I understand his hardships, I can't shake the notion that I'm constantly in his shadow. Then my uncle joined in. He leaned down half joking. "You know, Kevin could probably get you a job at his company. Maybe it's time to get serious about work, right?" I tried to chuckle, but inside I felt like I was going to burst. It's as if they don't see me. I've developed a successful career, yet they don't consider it true work. They simply cannot respect it. After dinner, I found myself drinking more than I normally would. Everyone moved into the living room, where the talk naturally turned back to Kevin. They discussed his recent promotion, his new automobile, and the vacation he just enjoyed. I tried to join in at one point, casually mentioning the freelancing job I'd been working on, but before I could finish, my aunt interrupted to tell me that Kevin's firm is sending him to Europe for a large case. I felt invisible. That's when the memories came pouring back. Growing up, the story was always the same. Kevin was the kid I was always compared to at school activities, family holidays, and even birthday celebrations. It was always, "Look at Kevin, isn't he amazing?" Meanwhile, I was only there as the other cousin. I'm not sure what came over me, but I couldn't be silent any longer. When I eventually spoke up, the room became quiet. I said something like, "You people know I have my own life, right? It may not be a well-paying corporate position, but it makes me happy." The room lapsed into an uneasy quiet. My mother gave me the look that suggests she's disappointed without saying anything. No one knew what to say, of course. Kevin, as the golden child, attempted to smooth things over. He smiled and complimented my creative work, but it did not feel real. It seemed patronizing. That was when I snapped. I responded, "Thanks, but I don't need validation from someone who doesn't even know what happiness is." You could have heard a pin drop. Everyone was stunned. Nobody had ever spoken to Kevin like way, especially not me. My father swiftly drew me aside, muttering that I was causing a commotion, but I didn't care anymore. I was finished pretending everything was good. Without saying anything else, I grabbed my coat and walked out. I couldn't stand being in that house anymore. I was fed up with the continual comparisons and the sense of never being good enough. As soon as I arrived home, I opened Reddit and vented. I blogged about everything. How I'd been compared to Kevin my entire life, how Thanksgiving was the final straw, and how I was tired of being treated as if I didn't exist. The post received thousands of upvotes and hundreds of comments. People from all over shared their own family comparison stories, and I felt less alone than I had in a long time. Late that night, I received a text from Kevin. "I saw your post. We need to talk." My phone was constantly buzzing the morning after Thanksgiving. At first, I didn't even look into it. I knew what it was. After my Reddit article went viral, I expected some family members to see it, and they did. It was a mixed bag. Some responses were sympathetic, while others were filled with wrath. My aunt left a lengthy voicemail, unhappy that I had discussed intimate family affairs in public. Another cousin, whom I hadn't spoken to in years, sent me a message stating, "I understand. I have been there." That one startled me. Then came the message I had been dreading. From my mother. Her call arrived at 10 a.m., and I could already imagine what the talk would be like. I let it ring for a while before picking up. She did not hold back. She was unhappy that I had posted our family business online, and she demanded that I apologize to Kevin for embarrassing him in front of everyone. It was all the typical stuff, like how I needed to set things right and correct what I'd done. This time though, things were different. I refused to cave. I refused to apologize, even after years of quietly living with the repeated comparisons. I made it apparent that I was over pretending things were good. And if they couldn't accept me for who I was, I'd have to walk away. She was quiet for a time, perhaps not expecting me to stand firm like that. However, the call ended with her expressing her disappointment in me. It pained, but I understood what had to happen. Later that night, Kevin called me. I wasn't sure what to expect, perhaps another lecture, or some passive-aggressive attempt to smooth things over, but Kevin simply wanted to chat. I almost did not pick up. A part of me wanted to just ignore him, but curiosity got the best of me. I responded, and after a brief awkward chat, we decided to meet the next day at a local coffee shop. When I arrived, Kevin was already sitting at a table by the window, looking slightly less put together than normal. He wasn't dressed sharply. Just a hoodie and pants, which was unusual for him. I sat down, and after a few moments of small conversation, he got to the point. He apologized. He stated he had no idea how much the family's continual comparisons had influenced me. I nodded, but I didn't entirely believe it. I figured he must be aware on some level. He'd always been the golden child, and I assumed he appreciated it, even if he didn't acknowledge it out loud. But then he said something that took me off guard. He complained about his profession, including the hard hours, constant pressure, and the fact that his parents prioritized his career over his happiness. It was eating him up. He even admitted that he had been considering quitting for a long time but didn't know how to tell his family. He informed me that all the acclaim and attention he received didn't make him happy. In reality, it only made him feel more imprisoned. I just sat there, stunned. For the first time, I felt like we were on the same page. I used to believe he enjoyed the attention, but after hearing him speak, I understood he too was frustrated, just like me. We began talking more openly than ever before about how much pressure we both felt from our families. I told him how being compared to him my entire life had made me feel invisible, as if nothing I accomplished could ever measure up. Surprisingly, he said he envied me. He stated he wished he had the bravery to follow something he was passionate about, as I was with my design job, but he felt too constrained by the expectations placed on him. Then he dropped the bomb. He intended to quit his work and travel for a year to figure out what he truly wanted in life. I wasn't sure what to say. We were talking about Kevin, the guy who had everything, and now he was telling me he was about to throw it all away to go trekking or whatever. Part of me was stunned, but another part of me admired him for it. It required courage to walk away from a profession like his, especially because his entire family had been rooting for him for years. When he eventually told the family about his plan, everything went as expected. The same relatives who had been praising his praises only days before were now full of criticism. How could you throw away such a bright career? How about your future? It felt weird to watch. All of their admiration for him was disintegrating before my eyes. I couldn't help but feel satisfied. For once, Kevin wasn't being treated as if he were perfect. He was just like the rest of us. Imperfect and attempting to figure things out. As Kevin began arranging his vacation, I found myself respecting him in ways I never expected. He was taking control of his life by doing what he wanted rather than what others expected of him. And for the first time, I didn't feel as if I were living in his shadow. The family had finally stopped treating him as if he were untouchable, which seemed like a victory, not just for me, but for both of us. A few days later, my parents arranged a family meeting to discuss Kevin's choice, as well as my recent defiance. I went, but this time I wouldn't sit quietly. I told them straight up that if they didn't quit comparing me to others, I was going to cut off contact. I was not going to allow them to continue to make me feel inadequate. There was a lot of tension in the room after that, but I wasn't concerned. I had finally uttered everything I needed to say. I left the conference with a peculiar sensation of peace. I had no idea what would happen next with my family, but for the first time, it didn't matter. I was finally living life on my own terms, and it felt great. Update 2. 2 weeks had passed since the family gathering, and I hadn't spoken with my parents. Honestly, the silence seemed like an odd combination of relief and anguish. On the one hand, I was emotionally exhausted by the entire process, but on the other, I finally felt at ease knowing I had stood my ground. The last thing I told them was clear: if they didn't stop comparing me to Kevin, I was going to terminate communication. It had left them astonished. And the silence. Yeah, they were trying to find out how to reply. In the midst of all that silence, my phone rang. That was my younger sister. She typically avoided family conflict, but this time she called to express her admiration for how I handled things during the meeting. She told me she had also felt the burden of family expectations but had never been brave enough to speak up. Hearing that was surprising, yet it made sense. She's always been in the background, never making waves, so I guess I never considered that she may be feeling some of the same weight I was. Meanwhile, Kevin was already making moves. I received a message from him stating that he had sold his sports vehicle and was reducing his residence in preparation for his extensive trip plans. The guy didn't waste any time. I couldn't help but be surprised by how quickly he was going, but I had to appreciate it. He was truly taking control of his life and doing things that made him happy, which surprised me. It was bizarre to see him transition from the ideal corporate person to someone who consciously chose to walk away from it all. But the biggest surprise happened a few days later. I was sitting at home, surfing around Reddit, when my phone buzzed again. It was my father. My father isn't one for long chats or dramatic speeches, so when I saw his name come up, I didn't expect much. But when I opened the message, I was floored. It was a quick statement. "I'm proud of you for standing up for yourself." That is it. It was a little message, but coming from him meant a lot. For as long as I could remember, my father had always been the silent sort, never displaying any emotion. So receiving this text from him felt enormous. Of course, not everyone agreed with the way things had gone. One of my aunts called and blatantly tried to guilt-trip me into apologizing to my mother. She went on about how family comes first and how upset my mother was, but this time I wasn't giving up. I stood firm, telling her that things had to change and that I would not continue to live under the same weight of expectations. I wasn't being rude, but I was direct. It felt like another tiny win to be able to set boundaries with them, even if they didn't appreciate it. I kept posting Reddit throughout everything, and the support I received from strangers was astounding. Every time I submitted an update, I received comments from folks who had been in similar situations. It felt almost like treatment. Seeing that other individuals knew what I was going through made me feel less alone. It provided me with confirmation that I hadn't had from my own family in years. Then one night during one of our catch-up talks, Kevin smacked me with something unexpected. He suggested I join him on his travels for a few months. He thought it would be a perfect opportunity for both of us to get away from the family stress and simply reset. I wasn't sure how to answer at first. The idea of taking a few months off was appealing, but I had never been the kind to take impromptu travels, especially with someone with such a tangled history. Still, it remained in the back of my mind. A few days later, my parents' silence ended. My mother called, and it was not the angry, demanding call I had anticipated. Instead, she was in tears, pleading with me to come over and talk. She didn't understand why I was furious or angry, and she pleaded with me to make things right before they grew worse. I agreed to meet with her, but this time I set the terms. I told her I'd come over, but first we'd have an honest chat about how her incessant comparisons to Kevin had affected me over the years. She pondered before agreeing. When I arrived at the residence, things were tight. My mother was defensive at first, not understanding why I was making such a big deal about things. But as I laid it all out, how the Thanksgiving dinner went, how she always bragged about Kevin's success while never acknowledging mine, it began to set in. I provided her specific examples, demonstrating how the family's fixation on Kevin had made me feel like an afterthought for years. At first, she denied it. She insisted that she simply wanted the best for me and that she never intended to hurt me. But as the talk progressed, I saw a shift in her. She began to realize how her actions, albeit well-intentioned, had caused significant damage. She apologized, and while I accepted it, I knew it would take time to heal. My father was also present, sitting calmly as he usually does. He didn't say much, but when I mentioned how suffocating their expectations had been, he nodded. That tiny act meant far more than any words could have. It was his way of saying he understood. The meeting concluded on a cautiously hopeful note. My mother stated she was willing to work on things, and my father even promised to attend one of my freelancing art shows, something he had never done before. I left feeling optimistic, but I knew it would take time for things to really change. Later that night, I found myself reflecting on Kevin's offer to go. Perhaps this was the ideal time to take a break from the family conflict and focus on myself. I'd spent years coping with their expectations, and now I had a chance to break away, at least for a short time. I've chosen to go. I texted Kevin and said I'd accompany him on the first leg of his journey. I wasn't sure what to anticipate, but I decided it was time to find out. Update 3. Departure day came quickly. Kevin and I boarded the flight to Japan, our first stop. I'd never traveled much before, so the entire event felt weird. The exhilaration came in waves, accompanied by a small amount of anxiety. There we were, two cousins who had spent most of our lives entangled in family dysfunction, set to embark on this big journey together. Before we departed, we agreed on one thing: no family conversations. This was our opportunity to leave everything behind and simply enjoy the adventure. The first several days in Japan were a jumble of unfamiliar sights, sounds, and foods. We jumped right into sightseeing, temples, busy streets, and neon-lit nights. Kevin appeared calmer than he has in a long time. He wasn't constantly checking his phone or discussing work. I began to see a different side of him, one that was unrelated to his work or his family's expectations. I wasn't sure what to make of it at first, but it was a noticeable departure from the Kevin I knew. After a long day of touring, we ended up at a quiet supper location and ate bowls of ramen. Kevin finally talked about his choice to quit his work. It wasn't just the stress, he continued. It was the knowledge that he had been living a life controlled by what others desired for him. His parents, his colleagues, and even our extended family. Everything he had done up until now had been for their approval, and he had no idea what he wanted for himself. It hit me harder than I expected, owing to the realization that we were more alike than I had previously assumed. Although our journeys had been different, we both felt shackled by expectations. His is the perfect success story, whereas mine is constantly being compared to that achievement. The more we chatted, the more the barriers between us came down. For the first time, we were having a genuine conversation, rather than the surface-level conversations we'd had at family events. Kevin said that he had always coveted my ability to pursue my passions. He told me that while I might not have the money or prestige, I did have something he lacked: passion. In exchange, I revealed that I had always felt inadequate next to him. It was a real, honest chat that brought us closer than ever before. Of course, things were not perfect. A few days later, we had our first major argument. Kevin, being Kevin, wanted to organize every element of our trip, including itineraries, backup plans, and spreadsheets of potential destinations. Meanwhile, I wanted to be more spontaneous, to go with the flow and explore without a set timetable. The conflict was inevitable. We ended up not speaking for the rest of the day because we were both too obstinate to back down. By the next morning, we were both done. We sat down to apologize. Kevin stated that his urge to control every aspect stemmed from his demanding career, where everything had to be perfect. I recognized that my dissatisfaction was not just about the vacation. It was deeper. It was about how I still felt compelled to prove something. We agreed to meet each other halfway. We eventually reached a compromise. Some days, we followed Kevin's ideas, while others, we let the day flow naturally. Once we found our groove, the trip was precisely what I needed. We trekked through the mountains, visited peaceful temples, and even made a surprise weekend vacation to the countryside. The longer we were traveling, the lighter I felt. It was like peeling away layers of anticipation with each new experience. I began to regain my joy, not just in life, but also at work. I even got out my sketchbook for the first time in months to draw scenes from the trip that had inspired me. Throughout, my phone rang with texts from home, largely from my mother. She sent updates on how things were progressing, but I kept my comments brief. I wasn't ready to go back into that environment just yet. Then one day, I received a message from my father. "Hope you're finding what you're looking for." It read brief and straightforward, but it had a lot of weight coming from him. I did not answer immediately, but the message lingered with me. As Kevin and I continued our journey, he began to worry about what he would do when it was all done. He didn't intend to return to corporate law, but he wasn't sure what the next step was. One night, I proposed that he consider consulting or teaching law part-time. For the first time, he appeared open to the notion. It was an odd shift. Kevin, who had always been certain of his path, was now exploring something quite different. But it felt like a positive change. One night, while scrolling through Reddit, I decided to share a reflection on how the trip had affected my outlook. I discussed letting go of the desire for family approval and how my relationship with Kevin had evolved from rivalry to mutual respect. It felt good to share, and the responses poured in again, full of encouragement and understanding. A few hours later, my mom texted me. She saw the post and told me she was proud of me for following my dreams. It was unexpected, but for the first time, I felt cautiously optimistic about making things right with her. By the end of the journey, I felt more in control of my life than I had in the past. I was no longer defined by familial comparisons, and for the first time, I felt completely confident in myself. Kevin and I parted ways at the airport. He was going to his next trip, while I was returning home. We both had a better knowledge of each other now, which I never imagined would happen. As I returned to my home life, I couldn't help but feel that it was the beginning of something new. My freelancing company was picking up again, and I had some huge ideas. And perhaps there was something else on the horizon, but more on that later. Update 4. Coming home from my trip with Kevin felt different in a way that I couldn't quite understand at first. Everything in my apartment looked smaller, almost as if it couldn't accommodate the new perspective I'd received throughout our travels. But rather than feeling confined or trapped, I felt more in control, as if I suddenly had room to breathe. I felt clear, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't weighed down by familial comparisons or self-doubt. I was eager to get back into life full force. When I went back, the first thing I did was catch up on my freelance job. I hadn't imagined how much going away would refuel my imagination. Within days, new ideas flowed, and I felt more motivated than I had in months. I began working with a few new clients, including a well-known company that I'd been wanting to work with for a while. After finalizing the agreement, I made an update on a freelance site regarding the expansion of my firm. The response was astounding. It wasn't just the upvotes or comments. It was the acknowledgement from individuals who understood the grind, who had watched me rage and now saw me thrive. As I returned to my normal schedule, my family began to contact me more frequently. My mother called and invited me to supper, and I noticed my father sending the occasional text asking how things were doing at work. They seemed to be trying, and while I admired their efforts, I remained vigilant. I wasn't going to let myself fall back into the toxic comparisons that had governed my life for so long. I eventually accepted my mom's dinner invitation. I was a little nervous, expecting the same old ritual of hearing about Kevin's newest achievements, but to my astonishment, everything was different. She was truly interested in my trip with Kevin, inquiring about the places we went and what the experience was like. For once, the topic wasn't about Kevin's accomplishments or how I measured up to him. It was nearly normal. During supper, my father said something that caught me completely off guard. He stated he was proud of me for making the decision to travel and pursue my interests. It was a simple comment, but coming from him felt significant. My father has never been one for lengthy emotional conversations, so hearing him accept my choices like that was more significant than he probably understood. It was unexpected support, but it strengthened my belief that I was on the right track. As the weeks passed, I noticed a change in the way my family interacted with me. My mother still made the occasional remark about Kevin, but she quickly caught herself and changed the conversation. It wasn't ideal, but it represented development. More significantly, I wasn't allowing it to affect me in the same way it did before. I finally felt in control of how much their comments influenced me. Then, something unexpected occurred. A few weeks after returning home, Stella and I met at a local art event. We had known each other since college, but I had not seen her in years. She was now a photographer, and we instantly connected over our mutual passion for creative work. We swapped numbers, and before I knew it, we were meeting for coffee later that week. It didn't take long for me to experience something I hadn't felt in a long time, a genuine spark. Around the same time, Kevin called me from Italy. He seemed more cheerful than I had ever heard him. He discussed his trips and the great experiences he'd had. He even said that he had no intention of returning to law. Instead, he was thinking about a passion project he had always wanted to pursue, writing a travel book. Hearing him talk about his future with joy rather than stress was a welcome shift, and I found myself cheering for him wholeheartedly. There was no tension or conflict between us anymore. We were just two people figuring out our own paths. Stella and I hit it off right away after that first coffee date. She was encouraging, positive, and truly interested in my work. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I was with someone who accepted me for who I was, rather than comparing me to others. It was invigorating, and the relationship began to progress naturally. We spent more time together. And as I got to know her better, I understood how much she influenced my creativity. When I introduced Stella to my mother, she instantly asked, "What does she do for a living?" Normally, the inquiry would have made me feel compelled to justify or explain myself, but I didn't feel that way this time. I simply informed her that Stella was a photographer and that I was satisfied with her. My mother must have realized that pushing any further was not going to be successful because she dropped the subject, something that would never have happened previously. A few weeks later, I was presented with another significant opportunity. I was hired by a technology company to manage a design team on a big rebranding. It was the type of job I never imagined I'd be trusted with, and it felt like all of my efforts were finally paying off. I announced the news on an entrepreneurship forum, and the response was phenomenal. I couldn't help but think about how far I had gone from my initial venting post. Speaking of reflection, I published another Reddit post outlining the previous few months and how everything had changed. My relationship with my family, my closeness with Kevin, and my newfound confidence. It all felt like part of a journey that I could finally be proud of. The post went viral, garnering thousands of comments and upvotes from those who had been following along from the start. It was humbling, but also validating, to see how many people connected with my story. Stella had a significant impact on my creativity. Her photography inspired me to try new techniques in my design work, and we began working on little projects together. I felt like my work had gained new depth and purpose since we started dating, and I was excited to see where our cooperation would lead us. I'm now focused on the future. I intend to grow my freelance career, pursue new creative opportunities with Stella, and establish healthy boundaries with my family. I'm not completely healed from the years of comparison, but I'm on the right path. I can feel significant changes coming, and I'm ready for whatever happens next. After discovering my stepmom's secret Reddit account, I learned she hates me and my siblings, and it's completely shattered our family. Original post July 17, 2024. I'm really pissed off and want to vent. I even cried reading the things she said and I don't know what to do. I don't need any advice, I just want to vent. My father has been married to my stepmother for 5 years, he has been divorced from my mother since my younger brother was 2 years old. There is no beef between them and they have a great co-parenting. I have a 17-year-old sister, a 16-year-old brother and I'm 25. Then my father has a 3-year-old son with my stepmother. I found her Reddit account in a pretty random way. Since I'm only home on the weekends I let her use my computer, she forgot to close her email. She doesn't post too much but she comments too much. I was honestly going to close the email but it caught my attention that all the replies were from step-parent subreddit so curiosity won me over. I know, it's not a good thing to do and curiosity killed the cat. The first thing I saw was her last post in which she detailed things about my life in a random Reddit sub, criticizing my decisions and even lying to get people to support her. She has posts on that site talking about how happy she feels when my siblings are not at home, my sister adores her. But she has comments talking about how she can't wait for them to turn 18 and leave the house because she just wants to share the house with her family, my father and her toddler. It seems that she doesn't see us as her family. She has a lot of comments answering other people that it's totally okay to not love your stepchildren because they're not family and it's okay not to consider them one. She has comments talking about how much it bothers her when my dad and brother have sleepovers. They just watch a series in the playroom and then go to sleep, as she is tired of hearing the laughter of a teenager and can't wait until we all leave the house so my father can be with his real family. But what she hates the most is having to learn sign language for my little sister. It had always seemed strange to me that SM still struggles with sign language, but now I know that she never really put in the effort to learn. My sister always said that for many people sign language is very difficult so I never said anything. But now I know that she always found stupid to learn how to communicate with my sister when my sister always tried to help her. I was too surprised by the hatred she has when my father spends time with me and my sister. Her jealousy towards us is so obvious that it disgusts me that there were so many people who told her how they feel the same way about their SDs. To the point of sexualizing things. My siblings are not problem children. They even love her very much and what fills me with anger the most is that she is so false in front of us. Do you know the number of times I offered to babysit my stepbrother so she and my dad can go on a date? All those times she refused to let me take care of him but now I saw comments that she left about how I am living at my father's house and I don't help her at all, only for other people to respond saying that she should give my father an ultimatum to make me leave because I'm too old to live with him and he has a new family. I cook my food, do my laundry, share a room with my sister. I help my father pay the bills while she doesn't, and only come home on the weekends because I'm doing a police academy ALSOR full week. I don't even care if I'm making too obvious who I am. It was my father who told me to move back with him so that when I come back from the academy on Friday nights it will be a shorter trip. She sexualizes my interactions with my father saying that it is not normal for me to sleep a nap hugging him and that I should know my place, He is my father. What the hell wrong with her? I'm so disgusted. Relevant comments. Grumble gal, this, show your father what she really thinks of you all. Because once you're all eventually out and she gets her wish, she's going to work double time to keep it that way and isolate him. Accurate neck. 6933. You won't get any inheritance. She will make sure of it. OOP, I don't think my father has anything to inherit to us. We all lose in that OOP on why she is in the police academy. OP, I live in a third world country. Half of my colleagues are women in vulnerable situations. The only way out they found was to get into the police because here you get free healthcare, education and money. Women who have left their children to walk forward in the only way they found. You demonstrate your privilege by criticizing and being judgmental about someone just because of their work without knowing everything behind it all. OOP on if she has had a relationship with her stepmom and if they have talked on a regular basis. OOP, honestly, I would have taken the time to sit down with her and chat about how she feels before I knew all of this. She's had years to adjust. But now? I don't give a shit about what feels a person who says I want to fuck my own father and that learning sign language is a waste of her time when my sister feels bad for not being able to communicate with her too much after years. Nothing. Nothing justifies being jealous of a daughter with her father, nothing justifies her comments. It's one thing to say you're stressed and another to make up things on the internet about your stepdaughter. I deleted the post, July 17, 2024. Hi, I decided to delete the post because for now I can't tell anyone what happened because I'll basically be locked up in the academy until Friday morning. In fact, I shouldn't even be using my cell phone now. Someone with too much free time shared the situation in that sub of step-parents to warn my SM. I have screenshots of everything, including a video showing that it is her email and showing the comments. If she sees that post, what will she do? Delete the account? I already have the proof. But I don't want my siblings to find out before I tell them, and I know that those types of posts usually end up in those TikTok that re-upload posts without permission, so I prefer to delete the post so that it doesn't stand out even more. Although my siblings don't use Reddit or that kind of content. I'm going to post again in that sub when I talk about everything with my family, so I hope Redditors know how to keep the secret of the post for now. I know they won't, hahaha. Being a stepmom is hard. Yes, one thing is feeling that you're having a hard time and another totally different thing is making a post saying that you hate it when your stepdaughter is around her father because you think she's going to *CK him, TF. It is not the same to say being a step-parent is stressful, than to say honestly learning SL is unnecessary. BC when the girl turns 18 I will not see her again. It is a waste of time since she can read lips. Also some people complained about me hugging my dad. I also take a nap hugging my mother or my siblings. I'm sorry for having a family that loves me and are not perverts who see a hug as something sexual. Probably next week I will be able to maybe give an update. The academy keeps me working almost all day. Comments elegant_crab_7500. Oh honey, my heart breaks for you. You do though, sound very mature and responsible. I have helped my sister raise my niece who is now 23 and is totally alienated from her dad, who left my sister for his now wife when my niece was only 10 months old. And step-family because her stepmom is much like yours but has done far worse things but then in a narcissistic way blamed it on my sister and I. My niece acts very tough and nonchalant about it, but a good few months ago, we were watching Hope Floats, and she just burst into tears sobbing, "Why doesn't Dad love me? What did I do wrong?" There is no perfect outcome for this sadly, but I do feel that she needs to know that you know, and so do your mom and siblings. If possible, do it in a calm factual way that protects your integrity. From my experience, do not respond and/or mirror or act like her. Always maintain your dignity and equilibrium in spite of what people here might say. Always maintain the upper hand. My sister and I did not, and sadly reacted to a lot of what my niece's stepmom did with rage. She, as any good narcissist would in turn use this against us. I talked with my siblings and my mom, July 20th, 2024. Hi. For now I'm going to post this little update here since I haven't spoken to my father yet, but I spoke with my siblings and mom. I told my dad that I was staying at a friend's house when I left the academy, but I actually went to my mom's house and told her everything. She doesn't even know what Reddit is, that site isn't used too much here. But I translated the comments and posts for her, I showed her the videos and my mom was furious. I explained to her that in the comments it's Madre Biologica. I was confused about it too the first time I read that, also with SM. So my SM also made comments and posts complaining about my mother being that they have always had a cordial treatment. But still my SM was lying saying that my mother was troublesome. No one in the comments said anything. Everyone supported her and they recommended that she should move far away with her legal family. far away from the problematic BM and kids. First we told my brother, who was also upset and said that she was a fake, but that he has seen her ignore my sister and pretend that she does not see or hear her a lot of times. He explained that like me it also seems strange to him that SM has not yet learned sign language. My siblings spend a lot of time at my father's house. Just like English or Spanish, sign language is much easier to learn if you live with someone who uses it every day, therefore it is strange that SM doesn't use it. He said that even my father has offered to pay for her classes, but she says she doesn't have time. We asked him if he noticed any other behavior of that kind, and he said that SM doesn't let him take care of our younger brother, which she also does with me, but curiously she does let our sister take care of him, so I don't understand that. Other than that, she's never treated him badly or anything like that. At the time of telling my sister she was the most hurt, she cried, especially because of SM's comments towards me, calling me a whore. It's kind of ironic how the comments towards her affected me and the comments towards me affected her, haha. Something that my sister noticed that I didn't is that almost all of SM's comments are criticizing me, my sister, and even my mother, but my brother she has only criticized sleepovers or when he comes back late from being with his friends. But she has criticized my and my sister's clothes, made up things about my life, confessed that she hates it when we hug our father, she said we're too clingy. She talked badly about my mother, etc. My sister said it's sexist and maybe she's got some mental problem. My sister said she always believed SM didn't really hear her and she maybe wasn't speaking well and didn't understand her. I think that's the shittiest thing of all. My sister's greatest pride is being able to pronounce some words no matter how short they are or if they sound like noise for some people. We understand her, but SM made her feel insecure every time she ignored her. I know that my sister always justified that by believing that it was her mistake and that SM made an effort to learn, but it was simply more difficult for her, but now we know that no, she was never interested in learning. I'm getting mad again as I write this, sorry. My mother said she was going to talk to both of them, mainly because even though it's an anonymous site, SM's way of expressing herself is sick and she's not going to let my siblings be around someone like that. Oh, but she's venting, being a stepmom is lonely. I received comments like that. It's not the same to say I feel lonely and I feel stressed, than to say my stepdaughter behaves like a slut, just because me and my minor sister uses a bikini for the pool. Her account is old. She's been leaving comments like that for years. With lies, with complaints we never heard before, it's just messed up. We arranged that we're going to tell our father all together and show him everything, so we're probably going to tell him tomorrow because I need to leave for the academy on Monday. My SM account has not been deleted. It's crazy how she makes things up to get approval from strangers. At this point I don't even know if she's crazy or a mythomaniac. I would like to go back to her email since the password is saved, but I don't know if she will receive a notification of that because this time I closed the account. Update, July 22nd, 2024. We talked to my father over the weekend. For now he is staying at my mother's house. It is a complicated situation since in the middle of everything is my half-sibling too. During the weekend I went to my father's house and the first thing I did was tell my stepmom separately that I've seen her Reddit account and I'm going to talk about it with my dad. She told me that I can't condemn her for something she uses as an intimate diary, but I told her that this is not a diary, it is a social network where she makes her problems and lies public. If someone other than me discovered her account, then what was going to happen? Were they going to believe all the things she invented? If her identity was revealed on that account by someone else, I would have too many problems and could even be kicked out of the academy. Again, there's a big difference between saying I'm stressed and, my stepdaughters behave like sluts around their father. I simply told her that my mother and sister also know it and would come to talk about it too. She for obvious reasons just went to lock herself in her room, not wanting to talk with me. Once we talked to my father, I showed him most of the posts and comments. There were so many crazy comments that I think it would take me too long to read them all because they were just so long too. She's that kind of people who comments the bio of their lives in the posts of other people. My father got angry. My SM never expressed having a single problem with us like that. The situation would be different if we knew what she thinks about us. My father went to look for my SM, who refused to talk about it and was mostly angry with me for violating her privacy. My father told her that she's insane for thinking that my sister and I sexually provoked him, that he can't believe the way she talks about my sister and the happiness she expresses every time my sister goes to the hospital and is not home. How she expresses to be counting the days until my sibling stops going to the house forever. My father told her that she knew that he is a father and that he would never leave us aside. She made her decision, and even so, instead of talking about her problems, she decided to create an account to play at being a victim. She said she needs a place to vent, but he told her that venting is not the same as telling lies. Venting is not the same as hating your stepdaughters and talking horrible things about them, and she could have spoken about it and not just lied. They argued a lot, but it didn't get anywhere because she kept defending herself and my father only told her that it was over. My mother told my father that she is not going to let my sister and brother be around a woman who is clearly mentally unstable because no normal person thinks like that. After arguing too much and even trying to make SM understand that what she did is wrong, she just justified herself all the time. My father went with us and told her that he is going to come back just to see my brother every day, but that he no longer trusts her and never saw that side of her. She lied for so many years. Nothing really went as I expected. I think I at least hoped that she could apologize, but I think she doesn't even think that what she did is wrong. In her mind, everything was totally justified because being a stepmother is difficult, but nothing justifies her being so cruel and poisonous. But yeah, that's what happened. I think it's hurtful to know that someone can hide that much darkness inside. I wasn't too close with her, but I liked her, to the point of sharing my clothes and things with her, so I also feel sad about it. Mostly for my dad. Me gustaría simplemente decir que ella está demente, pero creo que eso daría espacio a justificar su comportamiento. Ella simplemente es una víbora de dos cabezas. Editor's note. Translation. I would like to just say that she is insane, but I think that would give room to justify her behavior. She is simply a two-headed viper. Relevant comments. Not so religious now. Is her account still up or did she delete everything? She's absolutely insane and a narcissist if she can't see that what she did was wrong. I hope it all works out for you guys. Stay strong. OOP. The last time I looked it was still there. I have her email password saved on my computer, so if she doesn't delete it I'll tell my sister to do it for me. Some people told me that they have recognized some of her comments, so yes I will delete the account if she doesn't de-kill the messenger one. Wow, just wow. You think you know someone and then 1 second, bam, I am so sorry you and your family are dealing with this. SM is off her rocker. Does she need constant attention and approval? She needs therapy and most likely the whole family because this is a traumatic event and major trust issues are now forming. Stay well, stay strong. OP, new updates. Little tiny update. August 25th, 2024. 1 month later. Hello. It's been a while and I honestly forgot to make an update. Not many things have happened, but I just want to update for people who were worried. My younger brother has been visiting us. Our father still lives at my mother's house. Luckily my stepmom lets my dad bring him home some days of the week and on weekends. I deleted her account weeks ago. She didn't tell me anything about it or if she saw any TikTok or post about this. Maybe now she's afraid to use Reddit or something like that. I only deleted the posts, but there were too many comments and I honestly didn't want to waste my time deleting them one by one. I'm not sure if comments are automatically deleted with the account as well. I'm not going to talk too much about her and my father's relationship, but she continues to deny that she did anything wrong and has a very misogynistic way of thinking about women, and apparently she does not intend to change her way of thinking. It's too crazy how now we know her dark side, but at the same time she's still her with my little brother and even my father. My father is separated from her for now because he doesn't have money to pay for the divorce. She said that if they come back together she will not let me enter her house after what I did, so my father decided to stop trying with her. I have no idea what legal arrangement they have on the house or what will happen when they divorce, but I guess my father is going to leave the house to her and he's going to find another place to rent in order for my younger brother to suffer as little stress as possible from a separation. For a toddler, moving is a lot of anxiety, so it's better for him to stay comfortable in his place. I wouldn't have any problem with that, and neither would my siblings. I prefer my brother to have a home and suffer as little as possible from the separation. So yes, that has happened. I'm surprised that a month has passed. I feel like it's been 7 years, but these kinds of serious processes last month, so nothing interesting or anything like that has happened. For now, I'm glad my little brother can be with us. Update 2, October 5th, 2024, 1.5 months later. Hello, it's been a while since I last posted here. I just wanted to give one last update before leaving this for a few months, since things like divorces take a lot of time and long processes, much more so when minors are involved. If my father and SM agree on everything, the divorce process can be finished in 3 months, but if not, it can last up to a year. It all depends on them. This will probably be a pretty boring update, but I want to reassure people who are worried about me and my siblings. My father has screenshots of everything, even the video of me entering her stepmom account from her email on my computer. I don't think it will do much good during divorce since internet laws are a gray area here, but it's always better for him to have that just in case. Needless to say, SM will be in maybe 3 months, if everything goes well. Officially only my little brother's mother and no more my SM. Luckily she lets my little brother come to my mother's house and spend time with my father and us as always. He comes almost every day of the week. My father is going to leave the house to her so that the divorce will be the least stressful for my brother. At one point my father wanted to ask her to let me stay there on the weekends when I come back from the academy, but I told him not to do that. Honestly, I'm afraid to wake up and find her on the end of the bed looking at me like misery. I don't want to share a house with her at all. The only and last time I had a conversation with SM again, I asked her if she wasn't ashamed of anything and she totally ignored me. I think the most affected by this was my sister, who feels she has suffered discrimination from our stepmother, and I honestly believe her. My sister has told us about some situations that she let go of but now realizes were micro-discriminatory behaviors against her. Although they were not things like making fun of her in front of her face, there are microaggressions that we often decide to ignore, but they are done with malice. For example, my brother said that SM once said that my father's sons salen bien del horno. At the time he took it as a random comment. Maybe we are overthinking. But now he thinks it was something with double intention towards me and my sister, like saying that we didn't come out well. Again, things we like to ignore and think, nah, it was just a random comment. She has never apologized. She has the kind of mentality that the husband is only the wife's man and the partner comes before the children, which in my opinion is bullshit because she's only jealous of me and my sister. Imagine being jealous of your husband's daughters? SM strongly believes that she didn't do anything wrong except not to have written that in a secret diary. At least she now admits that. Maybe in 10 years she will realize everything else. My father, for obvious reasons, has gotten tired of trying to talk to her in a mature way, so they are going to divorce, and I guess she expected it because she didn't make any fuss nor anything like that. Divorces are a long and expensive process, so for now my parents, and SM too, at least she's a good mother to her own son, are focusing on not letting my younger brother feel those chaotic vibes, and my parents are taking care to not let my sister feel too bad either. They will go for joint custody since my father could not take care of my little brother 24/7 because of his work, and anyway they would not give him to him since he does not have a house or all the things that the courts ask for. I think the least affected by all this is my other brother, who is in dad, she's a bitch. Just find another girlfriend mode, but I guess that's how teenagers are. Anyway, there were people who found some of the posts or even comments which surprised me, lol. I've also been getting harassment from people from that sub, but know that I've already deleted the account. Congratulations to those who found the account.